welcome to this session on some hot tips for prioritizing and decision making. If you're sitting there with someone else, then you might want to share some ideas as we come towards the end. And you might want to jot a few things down if you've got a pen and a pencil that's there with you. In front of you, you're probably seeing a picture. And I'd like to share with you some of my thoughts around it. I hope you've stopped laughing. But decision making really is all about making the right decisions at the right time. So I just want to explain this picture a little bit for you. Your first thought, probably as a carer, is, oh, that poor donkey. What's going to happen to that poor donkey? And that's a very humanitarian thing that we have. So in our decision making, the human being factor is very high for us because we're working in that industry where human beings matter and we're not working with things. But I also want you to give consideration to some other parties that are within this slide as well. There's the register of the donkey carts. The register of donkey carts probably would want the donkey cart to have been roadworthy, to have been through its Ministry of Transport testing, wherever this donkey cart is. There's been a safekeeper is often the agency that looks after donkey carts. And then you have the business person who the belongings are. The business person who analysed how much he could actually put on the donkey cart. His decision making was flawed because clearly the donkey doesn't weigh nearly as much as the donkey cart's packages. And then the other one is to think about is the person who is inventing the harness to hold the donkey cart to the donkey. He might have been using some new harness equipment or some new type of product and was testing it out for the donkey that would keep it safely on the ground. So you see, there's a lot of factors that we take into account about making the right decisions at the right time. What I'm going to do is just share with you that a tool that we use in our Silica 360 is that we look at a little approach called the view, the action, and the results. So that's our view. So what would it take for you to become an awesome decision maker? Well, some of the factors that take into account in the view, we talked about in the last video I shared around mood, thinking about being in that mood of acceptance. I'm also going to share with you that your beliefs, your behaviours, your own self-talk that you have within here, and something called your locus of control. So if you are with someone, just turn around to that person and say to that person, I'm an awesome decision maker. And can you believe that? Or are you concerned that perhaps you self-doubt? Or you really are sure as a leader where you're going to take this? So let me share with you about locus of control. Locus of control is something that we believe. It's something that we take with us in all our decisions. And we either have an internal view of the world or an external view of the world. So when we have an internal view of the world, we can actually believe that any of the decisions that we make, we're making them for our own free choice. We're making them based on what we think is the right decision to make. We're making them based on the approaches that we've taken perhaps in the past that have worked for us. So we very much own our decisions. We're capable of saying, I allowed enough time for that wound care to be given. I allowed enough time to ensure that I could sit down and have a meal with someone. I allowed enough time to have the kitchen ready for what we're needing to do. Perhaps you are working with an external view of the world, an external locus of control. You may not have that yourself, but you may have come across others who do. They're the ones who say everything else has caused it to happen. We haven't got enough staff, which may be true, but nevertheless, the reason why you can't get through what you're doing isn't about what you have chosen to do. It's about the other things that have happened to you. So your external view of the world is that everything outside of you is what is causing your decisions to be made. So when you look at these two areas of locus of control, they're very much part of our way of being when we show up in the world. Now, that's about the way that we view things. But equally, we require a degree of self-mastery once we've figured out what our beliefs are all about, where they are, and what happens. So when we're doing that, that's about our action, the actions that we're choosing to take. And our actions that we choose to take, our decisions are very much made on what we have in our technical knowledge, what we have about the whole system that we work in. And more importantly, being actually accountable for the decisions you make and the priorities that you actually take. Now, I want you to think about that in your work environment. If you don't have enough technical knowledge, then if you're working with an internal locus of control, what you will do is you'll take a word map. You'll invite someone else to send you something about it. You'll read a book. You'll read an article. If you have an external locus of control, you're much more likely to ask someone else, what do you think? What would you do if you were in this set of circumstances? Now, both are important in decision making and prioritizing, but they also have their place for when they're best used. Now, in the system that we all work in aged care, there's a number of things that we have to take account before we take action on our decisions. Paramount is often safety, safety for ourselves, safety for others, safety for ensuring that the organisation we work for knows what's going on so they can make the right sort of decisions for you. And one of the hardest things that often I hear people talk about, particularly when they have an external locus of control, is this area of not being accountable. We actually need to be accountable. We need to say, I have enough technical knowledge to make this decision. I am aware of what my authority and my level of decision making can be within the organisation. And therefore, if I make that decision, I'm going to stand by that. I'm sure you, like me, have heard people say, I think we need to tell them this. We need to tell them that this is what's going on. So they think that, but they want you to actually be accountable for raising it. And then suddenly, when you do raise it, they're not always behind you. They're not always there with you. So self-mastery requires you to take a degree of action. Make sure that your technical knowledge is up to date, that you understand the systems that you're working in, and also that you're being accountable for your prioritization. Now, by no means am I suggesting this is anything like the donkey that you saw on the first slide that's there. But the 4 areas I raised with you are still important for you to be aware of. So by no means am I saying that this person who's in the sling, whether in their home or in aged care facility, but I do want you to give consideration to, we would, as a carer and a humanitarian, give concern for the client. If we were the legislator and we were that accountable person for what the legislator requires, then we would want to know, be that safekeeper and safety of the equipment that we're using. If we were the business person, the analyst as to whether we had put enough on the sling, then we want to know we've chosen the correct sling for the weight of our client. And in particular, what we might be wanting to do, if we were that person, that entrepreneur, like the donkey's entrepreneur who checked out the new harness, what we'd be wanting to do is to say, are we listening enough for an improvement opportunity, either from what we see and hear and feel ourselves, or from what our clients are actually saying to us. So that's all good and well when we're thinking of the decisions that we actually have to make. Lots of choices around on those areas for us. And we make decisions all the time. I'm not suggesting that we stop and weigh up every single decision that we do. But there are some ways that we can actually work better when we're thinking about prioritizing. This is a tiny little grid. The prioritizing grid will actually show you how to make decisions easy. Because, we can spend a lot of time in activity. And we say, I'm going to have time to do this, I'm going to have time to do that. But in fact, it's actually our prioritization that might be flawed. Why? Because of the beliefs and the behaviors, our locus of control, because of the moods that we might be in, whether we're in a mood of not accepting or a mood of accepting that we shared about before. So let's take a look at this 4-step little model here. You'll see that one axis has high, low of importance, and the other axis is low, high of urgency. Now, when we're doing low, high in urgency and low, high in importance, the two can come together to make this 4 prioritization matrix. So when something's important and it's of high urgency, then it has to be done now. That means that you may have to stop doing what you're currently doing. You may have to listen to what somebody has to share with you. You may have to go and help somebody else, even though you're not finished doing what you're currently doing yourself, because it's important and it's urgent. The next ones to do are those which are high in importance, but maybe not so urgent, but they're still needed to be done. And why do they need to be done? Let's have an example of that. It might be something around a medication. The pharmacist needs to know. A doctor detail needs to be shared with others. A communication, attending a meeting. Those things may in themselves not seem urgent. They've got low urgency, but they're important for the safekeeping of the residents, the clients, and yourselves. So you do need to do those next. And then there are things that are in this area of high urgency, but low importance. Now, our brains are really, really good at giving us stuff to work on and really taking us out of always getting into that number one, do now. Letting us think, oh, I'll do my notes. I can do that last. Well, maybe you can, but just ask yourself, maybe it's meant to be done now. And then the final section is something that is low in importance and low urgency. And that never needs to really get done until it actually sits into one of the other areas. So when we're looking at this priority for ourselves, you might actually know where you're going to go with some of this. You might think about your normal day and ask yourself, when I go back from watching this video, what am I going to do now? What is the most important thing for me to do now? And what will I do next? But more importantly, what will I do last? And if I have chosen to do that thing last, do I need to communicate to somebody else about what I haven't done, or I have done last but maybe didn't get it completely finished, in order that does not become somebody else's priority one and they have to do now? So between the decision making and the prioritizing, you can then move into this area of results. So we've taken account of our own view, we've thought about ourselves in terms of the action, and now the results that we are there are our willingness to accept feedback from others. Have we actively engaged with others to make smarter decisions? Well, some of you might be actually wanting a tool to help you get better results in where you're going. And this is a really simple tool that I carry around with me all the time. It's called the 5 W's and the 1 H. So it's easy to remember. It's the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So in order to make smart decisions that are prioritized well, then this is another tool that you can just pull out and ask yourself, where is this going to work best? Who needs to know about this? What is the right thing to do? When should it be done? Why are we even bothering doing it in the first place? And then how do we do it? And how do we do it in such a way that it is going to be an awesome decision? So are you ready to be an awesome decision maker? Are you ready to recognize what is most important? Are you ready to take action so that you can assist others to make better decisions? Are you ready to have really positive outcomes from your team when you're giving care? Now, all of these things put together can help you with your prioritizing and your decision making. But without them, without you actually choosing to take any action around this, then nothing will change. You'll go back to work, say that was a good video, I got some ideas from that. So if you're in the room with someone else, what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to actually turn to that other person and then say to them, I've got a few tips of my own. So if you've got a few tips of your own that you can share, just take a few moments to do that for you. So I want to just end up with taking us through to this next section for you. We are meaning-making machines. So whatever we're faced with in our decisions, we will make meaning of that. And some of us can be absolute advice monsters. So I invite you not to be like that. I invite you to have self-mastery. And that, for me, means having your views, beliefs, behaviours and self-talk and mood recognised. Being accountable for your technical knowledge and the way that the system is aware of you. And be willing to accept feedback, actively engaging with others to make smarter decisions. So thank you for listening to the video today. I'm sure if you go away and do some reflection for you, you might have wanted to listen to the previous one I talked about on moods, or the one that we talked about in terms of emotions. If you'd like to know more about the Above and Beyond group, or other ways that we can actually assist you and your team, please email me on arlene@aboveandbeyondgroup.com.au or on my mobile 0402 272 868. Looking at what you've covered today, I look forward to bringing you other videos like this so that we can share tips and hints and connect with you in your workplace.